Let's start setting up our keyframes for each of these. Let's start with show up. So our this text here, online elective, right? So how we the way we do this is right. How do I do a? Whoops, not that one. Man, I can't remember. There we go. I need an at. There we go. At keyframes with an S. So that's like the media queries. And we're going to use the name here. In our case, that's going to be show up. And then we have our curly brackets. So in here, keyframes, if you're familiar with videos, like the timeline in Premiere Pro or Adobe Effect, or if you're like old school Flash, then we also have keyframes in there. So it's kind of like a timeline stamp here we can set up. And it works with either to from, which will be from to is from 0, and sorry, from is from 0 and 2 is the last part, or we can set it up with percentage as well, and we can also set it up with seconds, I think, but that's I'm not sure about the last one. Anyways, we're going to start with 0% for the first one. So what's happening at the first percent? Then we're having the opacity to be transparent, right? So we're setting this to 0. I'm just going to copy this, and we need 4 of these. So at 0%, it's going to be totally transparent. At 20%, we want it to be so full color. The alpha channel is maxed out, or if whatever you want to call it. And then at 80%, we want it still to go from 1, and then, oops, that's not 80%. And at 100%, we want to go back down to 0. So this is the kind of the what we wanted to happen for the, in this case, our opacity of our, which one was it? Show up, there we go, from our static dot top text top. So we're going to have the text disappear. When we reload the page, it's going to be 0. Then it goes, once it's 20% in, it goes to full, and then it continues to stay at this until 80%, and then it goes to, when it goes to 100, it should be 0. So why did I add this one here? The reason why I added the 80 here instead of just having it like this is because we need it to be continually 100 or opacity at 1. If I remove it like this, then it's slowly going to go from 20% and then slowly go down to 0.8, 0.6, all the way to 0 when it reaches 100. So it's going to be a transition there. We want the continuous color for, in this case, 60% of the time. So let's save, let's go back to our this one and refresh. So we can see, I'm just going to refresh again. So now it fades in, and then we need to wait like 6 seconds and it should fade out and fade in again because we have the infinity loop, right? So that's the first one. I'm going to copy this because lazy, and I'm going to copy it out once and twice. So the second one is the slide in, and the last one was the reveal. If we scroll up a little bit, so we have slide in and reveal. The order doesn't matter in this case, but we don't want the, oh, we can just save. You can see what happens now. So nothing really happens a lot. But we're going to switch this out because it's not the same. In our slide in, we don't want the opacity because there's nothing to see, right? Because we push it out with our margin up here. So the margin is here, boom, we can see it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're changing the opacity to margin left, right? The first one here. And we're going to do -800 pixels here. And I'm going to copy this and just paste these out into this one here. And remember, this is for the slide in, not the review. So -800, -800, and then we're going to go to 0 and 0. So let's see what that does to our browser. So 1, 2, still nothing. That's all right. Oh, there we go. So it's over here. So it's sort of working, but that's all right because we're not done with our code. So you can see there's like a weird interaction here, but that's all right. Let's leave it with this for now. The last one we're going to set up is our reveal. And we're actually going to keep some of it. We're going to keep our opacity, and we're going to also add the width here. And the width is going to be 0 pixels in this case. I did something wrong. Oh, sorry, this is one of those, not a comma separation, it's not JavaScript. So opacity 0, width at 0 here at the start, and at 20% we want it to go to 1. And I'm going to copy this. Lazy, we know. And then we actually want to add another one. We want an extra transition here for 30%. One of those. And in this one, we want to add a width for 500, and you can guess what that's for. This one up here. And we still want to keep the opacity of 1 here, and let's say 80 and 100. We want to switch it back to 0, and then we want to set the width to 500 pixels again. Save, go back and really see what's happening now. So now you can see it moves in over here, right? It's a little bit weird. It's some odd interaction, but we'll fix it. But now it's sliding in like this, and it still has a transition for the color, so we're moving closer to what we want. Actually, we need to figure out what this is. I'm expecting one line of code instead of this thingy here. So let's go through. That's the slide in. So 555. Let's go down to slide in. That's right. Oh, maybe not the slide. It's the reveal actually, not the slide. There we go. That's down there, so we move it 5 feet, and then we have, whoops, so it's supposed to be 555 pixels down here, not 555. So let's hope this works. So now we have, yay, that's a little bit better. Great. So now this is looking more correctly. It's a bit slow also, but we'll figure that one out as well. But let's continue adding a few more things here. So let's scroll up to here where we have our overflow. And since we have a div block here, we're going to use this to control the element. So instead of being beneath, we want to push it up here. So it's coming in after that one, right? So let's do div, those curly brackets here, and we're going to use display, and then we're going to use the inline block here. So it respects the what's it called? The padding and height and so on. And then we're also going to use the overflow here as well for hidden. And let's just see what this does. So now we have this being pushed out instead because we're using the 9 blocks. So it's going to like push everything. But the speed is not something, I want kind of this to be faster going in. It seems a bit slow to me. So let's go to our code again. Let's go to our keyframe where we pushes this in. And let's see, so we have 20, that's a lot here. Maybe we should switch this up. Let's, instead of 80, let's take this to 30, let's take this to 40. So let's try this instead. That's better. So now this is one way of setting up your sliding effect for text, and then you can change this to whatever you want. The more text you have here, the better it fits. So it's not completely bulletproof. As you can see, there's a lot of space here. So if you add too much text, it switches line and so on. But this is kind of also just an example of how we can set up things, move them around with just HTML and CSS. If we use JavaScript, if we also attach JavaScript, we can better control it. And again, if you really want to go nuts with this, there's something called GreenSock. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but that's also a really good way of animating text because they have their own kind of framework for this. But anyways, this is the first part of it. So the top and the next one we're going to put in is the parallax.